KK, what it do? What it is, man? Let's get straight to it, man. I got these people on the phone, man. Fuck it though. Let's get straight to it, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button when y'all tap up in here, man. Hold on. It's going down. Let me get this shit right.
Go into any of your knowledge that you bring here today on the 14th day of November 2000?
I would say yes and no. Once I retired, I left my.
Hit the share button. Hit that like and share, KK. Let them know we on here.
Do you know whether it was turned over to the prosecution in the case?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay. Are you familiar with the discovery?
I'm guessing it's their first witness.
Somewhat.
Is the beat book included in the discovery that you're familiar with?
I don't know. I wasn't here for all of that. To be honest with you, Mr. Steele, the information that I possess in this case, we had this information.
Doc, what it do, my boy? It's been a while. Real niggas still around. You get it? Yeah, my boy. Hey, hit that like button, my boy. Make sure y'all share this. Share this, Doc. For sure. We finna keep it rolling. I think this their first witness, man. I don't even know what it is.
Presented it the way that
I'm a little late.
That's why you see some people who took pleas years ago because we.
And y'all let me know if it's too loud, if it's too low. Let me know.
When this case came back, I felt that I moved on with my life. I don't live here. I don't work here anymore. And I did my job. If we would have had the proper support that I feel that we got now, then this case would have been over. Because the information that I'm telling you,
good look,
it's in black and white. It's in our warrants. It's in our indictments, all of that. I have absolutely nothing to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know where some of this stuff is because after I retired, I moved on. I don't even have a police uniform anymore. So that's not my calling anymore.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. So the beat book may exist, but
Your Honor, I object to any further questioning about the beat book or anything else.
Sorry, testify. Let's move on from that. I just have one more question, if you don't mind. I just want to clarify for my subpoena.
I think you've asked all the questions you need to at this point in time in terms of his knowledge of the beat book.
Would you allow one more question, and then if it's not a proper question, you can tell me.
Okay.
The retired detective, not to answer. Do you know where the beat book is today?
Your Honor, I object. He's already answered that.
He's asked. Yeah, you can answer it if you can.
I do not.
Okay.
I don't know where any of my files from my previous profession is today. We catalog and kept our files. We have to leave them in the office. When different supervisors come in, different stuff can get misplaced. I don't know. I'm not there, so I don't know.
No, I understand, and I appreciate the information. The Georgia Gang Investigator Association, how do you become a part of that? If you were a part of it, I know you attended classes.
For myself, I never joined, but I often would interact with them. We shared information in-house and different, I believe, Mark Belknap and Eric Murdoch, Detective Kimball Murdoch were members of GGI, and we shared information countlessly. Our office was made up of a number of detectives, and of course, when we had an investigation, we talked amongst ourselves. It's just like a law firm speaking with other lawyers inside of your office. We talked about different things. Some things that may not make sense to me may make sense to another detective and so forth, because they may have had dealings with it previously. And that pretty much was our association with GGIA. I presented this summer at the conference. I had actually never been to the conference, but we interacted with them on a regular basis if we had to.
Do you know how, and if you don't, just say I'm not sure.
I don't.
How, well, let me ask the question. Do you know how to become a member or a participant in the Georgia Gang Investigator Service?
Your Honor, I object. That question was asked earlier and answered, I believe.
I did not ask it
Well,
earlier.
that's to him, so.
I don't.
Okay. You talked about on direct examination with the Honorable Prosecutor, gangs, hip hop, and gangs.
Mhm.
And I'm just looking at State's Exhibit 2B, as in Barry and Bravo.
Mhm.
It says 11, 13, 19. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that more in depth? What is that?
Like I said previously, was for myself and helping those who don't. Gang culture and gangs are happening right before our eyes. And if you don't understand what you're looking at, it may just look like whatever. And it's the same.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
educate us with a couple of examples what you're referring
Like I said previously, the movie Boys in the Hood. I went and saw that when I was probably 13 years old. When I saw it, have you seen Boys in the Hood?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, in the movie Boys in the Hood, when Ricky, the football player brother, was shot and killed, Doughboy went to retaliate, his brother. And when he shot the guys, when we went and saw it, we stood up and clapped because we were happy that he got revenge for his brother's death, not knowing that we were being force-fed gang culture. The same thing with Menace to Society, the movie Menace to Society, the movie Juice, all these different movies that in Black culture are mainstays. Most people, you can ask pretty much every Black person in here, they probably saw it, not knowing that in the movie Juice, they were basically teaming up to form their own little gang because they needed to get juice within their community and within their neighborhood. And so my presentation, I correlated to that. How did gang culture become so prevalent? How did gang become prevalent for myself? The movie Colors. I didn't know what a Blood or a Crip was until I saw the movie Colors. And then in St. Louis, every neighborhood became a set. I grew up around gang members, drug dealers, and people being shot and killed. And so it was like having to navigate through a jungle to survive. And so these things, I started thinking, how did I get this education? And do other people understand what they're being fed through music, through the songs that we listen and we're singing at Pull Up With a Stick? They're playing these at softball games, not knowing that that is a gang song. And it's one of those things through entertainment, the Black community has been brainwashed to thinking gang culture is normal. What do you do when someone shoots and kills your family member? Am I supposed to retaliate? Am I supposed to do what Doughboy did? Because the movies play a part in what we see. So if you don't know, a gang member told me this. He said, unless you change someone's people, places, and things,
You're
you can't.
going too fast. You're going too fast. Unless you change.
A gang member or anybody's people, places, and things, they can take on the identity of what they've been taught or learned. And so if you live in a gang-infested community and all you've seen is death, carnage, drug dealing, which happens in a lot of our housing projects, some may think that that's the way that you're supposed to operate. Some may think that you're supposed to, if someone hurts your family member, disrespects you, snatch your chain, snatch your whatever, I'm supposed to respond by shooting and killing them. That's what the presentation was about.
When a person is, we'll just say from birth, but grows up, sounds like you, in that type of environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you say twice now that you had to adapt.
You betcha I had to adapt.
Say it one more time.
Of course I had to adapt because I had to make a choice for myself on what type of life I want. We call it trap music for a reason. And in Black culture, we don't even understand why. Because I use the analogy of if a mouse get caught on a trap, right? He's stuck. And then he spends the rest of his life attempting to get loose, only becoming more trapped. That's what living in the ghetto is. And through music and movies, it only makes it seem like it's acceptable or make it seem like that's the only way to go. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good.
Okay. So we'll just talk about your background because you're using it today to try to be qualified, correct? Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. When you had to maneuver, I assume that means you had to ensure that you addressed a certain way, wore a certain color, or didn't wear a certain color. Is that what you're talking about?
That is exactly what I'm talking about.
And maybe use gang signs. I'm not saying you did.
Definitely didn't use any gang signs because I knew what came with that. In my community, you don't false flag or represent or throw up gang signs, something that you're not willing to follow up with what comes with that.
We're a little late. I'm a little late. I don't know who this is. I'm thinking this is a gang expert. Thinking this might be a gang expert. He's sounding like a gang expert. You know what I mean? He's sounding like a gang expert, but what he's saying is definitely not helping. Definitely have to throw up gang signs. Definitely have to be, you feel me, a part of the environment. You don't have to, but if he's a gang expert, I'm pretty sure he's an ex-gang member. I don't know. That's
that because throwing up that gang sign to someone that identifies from a rival gang could cost you your life. Wearing colors that associated with your neighborhood or things that associated with the gang in your neighborhood can cost you your life. And so for myself,
yeah, I'm guessing he a gang expert. We figure it out.
he can walk into the bus stop as being associated with that.
Shout out to Law and Crime.
It says on
Don't
your
flag.
States Exhibit 2B,
Mhm.
Under civil cases, it's a third one. It says Little Wayne
Man,
civil
free
case.
Thug, gang. Can
Mr.
y'all still hear
Gurwitz
good when
versus
my mic is on? Or is it better when
GWIRTC.
my mic is mute?
Are you paid for that?
I was retained to help provide information in reference to that case.
And is that the shooting that we have in the indictment today?
Yes.
Okay. Are you still on that case?
It's pretty much sitting and waiting. It's the bus driver suing those involved with the case. And so until they proceed forward, it's kind of in limbo.
But you're still, as far as you know, you're still an expert in that case or,
Yes.
or consultant, I guess you wrote.
Yes.
Is that true? Okay. You talked about Black Mafia family. What year was that?
2004.
Is that the first time that gangs are coming into Atlanta area? Is that what you were testifying to?
That's when I got here. So I don't know exactly. As you speak to people that grew up here, they'll tell you about other gangs and different. What happened in Atlanta when the housing projects basically were your affiliation or different gangs operated in the different housing projects. As they tore down the housing projects and as Atlanta became pretty much a hub for gangs across the country for the same reasons that a lot of people come here. Hip hop music, warm weather, big houses, and nightlife. And a lot of gang members come from New York, LA, Chicago, all over to Atlanta and love it here and operate here and are able to live differently than where they live back home.
Okay. I have something here that I was not following you. I'm trying to follow you, so I'm not saying that as in any way insulting, but 2009, 2010, Mr. Bennett was kidnapped. Is that what I wrote down correctly? Can you explain what you were referring to?
Chris Bennett, who was a member of
Your Honor, I
Bird.
object to getting into all of this detail.
This was mentioned on direct examination.
Your Honor, this
Excuse me.
detail, I object.
Excuse me. Let me finish.
Your Honor,
You've objected. Let him respond. I'll rule.
I don't know who Mr. Bennett is. It was discussed on direct. I'm asking what is the relevance to this qualification? It was brought out on direct examination in this hearing.
All right. I'll rule the objection. You can answer it.
Chris Bennett was a member of Bird Gang, and Chris Bennett was also Donovan Thomas's cousin. And he basically was kidnapped, subsequently tortured and shot and killed, and they found his body in DeKalb County in 2010. By Chris's death, Bird Gang then added his initials to their moniker. Instead of just being BG for Bird Gang, they became BGCMB, which stand for Chris Markel Bennett, was added to the moniker of their gang.
What was it again, the moniker?
Bird Gang, BG, is the acronym. They added CMB, which is Chris Markel Bennett, which was his initials to the gang. It's a moniker.
So it's CMB BG.
BG, CMB would be the letters used.
And that's Bird Gang that eventually became
correct. So you have If Gang, ABG, Bird Gang, Haiti Gang, all became If Gang.
Hold on. If you've been watching this, whoever in this chat been watching this, whoever in the chat been watching this, who the hell is this telling ass nigga right here? I don't get it, y'all. I thought he was a gang expert. Gang experts do a little telling, but they're there for the defense. They're there to help the gang members. Like, oh yeah, nah, you can't. We don't do no snitching because in the streets, if you snitch, you can get killed. You can get your family hurt. You can ruin your reputation. You won't be able to have a job, sleep at night. Like you can't. They give definitions why you can't tell and why you can't do the things that the prosecution wants you to do, right? So when you got a gang witness, he not supposed to go in a stupid death like this. So if y'all in the chat know who this is right here, if y'all was watching this before me, let me know who this rat is.
3 gangs. Walmart took over 3 mom and pop stores.
Got it. Okay. You said that you interviewed people in this courtroom. Do you know who they are?
I sure do.
Can you identify who you're talking about?
You have Shannon Stillwell, interviewed him once he was shot in the Tierra Jones case. Right behind you. Diamante Kendricks, interviewed him when he was arrested with Martinez Arnold after they attempted to retaliate and do a drive-by after Martinez Arnold was stumped out in Magic City in October of 2015.
Oh, he's the feds.
Who else is
Oh,
over there?
he's the police.
I can't see anybody.
Who else we got
I never
over
met
there?
Mr. Williams in person.
Whoa, this is deep. This ain't even a trial, y'all. The trial don't start till after Thanksgiving. This is pre-trial. This is what you call pre-trial, right? Everybody has a chance to interview the witnesses, and so then both sides have a chance to see what they face.
Do you have, I heard a lot of your knowledge comes from speaking with people, whether it's the mother of people who are allegedly in a gang, a supposed gang member themselves, a victim, your list. I'm not giving everything. All of those things are recorded in some way, memorialized in a report.
If someone was taken into custody, we Mirandized them accordingly. If we needed to proffer or speak through an attorney, we did that. If I spoke to someone on the streets that wasn't in custody and we were having a general conversation, those were not necessarily recorded or anything of the sort because I didn't know what they were going to say. And I necessarily wasn't interviewing them for the purpose of this case or any case. It might have just, you heard what happened in Magic City last night? No, what happened in Magic City last night? And then the conversation would go where it needed to go. So not all of them, no.
A lot of it, though, is through, obviously, your police work. You're doing this for your police work.
Of course,
You're
yes.
gathering information.
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank you for what you do and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Not former detective. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Came in late, but hey, real niggas know that nigga's a cop. I knew it. I knew he was a cop. I knew he was a cop. Man, damn.
Folks, why don't we take 10 minutes and we'll continue with the examination
Yes, Your Honor.
of Mr. Dennis, okay?
He almost said it.
I'll call you Detective Dennis. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
You the boss. You call wherever you want to call.
Man, that's wicked. That's wicked, man. We'll get back to that when they come back. I'm not finna sit on the screen. That's wicked now. He must have been an undercover detective. He said niggas was just running their mouth. Walking up on them, running their mouth. That's crazy. That's crazy. But the facts is, them lyrics is already crazy. Like, uh, I shot at his mama. Now you don't mention me. Nigga, mama really, house got really shot up. Shit, that's wicked. Then the Tahoe thing with the Tahoe. Oh, we shot up the Tahoe. That's wicked. And the nigga Tahoe shot up. That's wicked. Now, me personally, I rapped them lyrics. Young Thug's dope. Yeah, I rapped him. I'm like, damn. But I did not for surely know that this nigga was for surely. Yeah, that's kind of ignorant. Yeah, that's ignorant to the top degree. Like, that's ignorant. Getting grocery delivered is get a little loud. That's ignorant though. Uh, Niggas taking rap to a whole nother. Real gangsters don't talk about what they did in the streets. I'm from California. I was rapping them lyrics. I shot at his mama, and I ain't don't mention me. I was rapping them lyrics. And knowing if a nigga shot at my mama, if you said something to my mama, I'm gonna hurt you. Allegedly, right? It's wicked. And this ain't even the trial yet. They say it's gonna be worse for YNW Belly. They say it's gonna be worse for Melly. See. They said it's gonna be worse for Melly. Let's see. Let's see.
Supposed to get underway soon, but there's another delay, this time related to jury selection. We're talking with YNW Melly's former lawyer, Bradford Cohen, about the tension between the prosecution and defense and what insight these latest moves give us as we get closer to a new trial. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So, a whole new group of citizens were called to the Broward County Courthouse in the Fort Lauderdale area, potentially become part of the jury for this double murder retrial of YNW Melly. A jury that would decide not only if the rapper, whose real name is Jamel Demmons, is guilty of killing his two friends, but also whether Demmons should be executed. Yeah, because the death penalty would be on the table if Demmons is convicted. So anybody who's been following this case with us here on Sidebar and Long Time will know that Demmons is accused of shooting Christopher Thomas, aka YNW Juvie, and Anthony Williams, aka YNW Stack Chaser, inside of an SUV back in 2018. They were part of the YNW Hip Hop Collective with Demmons. They and several other young men were at a recording studio until the early morning hours the night of the murder.
Wicked.
Thomas, Williams, Demmons, and a fourth man, Cortland Henry, also known as YNW Portland, they all got into the same car together to head towards Demmons' home, but they never arrived. Not long
What y'all think? Y'all think this nigga?
showed up at the hospital with Williams and Thomas bleeding out.
Y'all think this nigga did that? Like, in all honesty, y'all think this nigga did that? I don't know, man. It's crazy.
The car. Demmons was not there. Henry claimed that there had been a drive-by shooting and Thomas and Williams had been shot in the head. But investigators say the evidence suggested the shooting looked like it happened from inside the car and that this was possibly staged to look like a drive-by shooting. And so both Jamel Demmons and Cortland Henry were charged with double murder. The two are being tried separately. Now, Demmons first went to trial over the summer this year, and it lasted for several weeks. But in the end, the jury couldn't reach a unanimous verdict on guilt, so Judge John Murphy declared a mistrial. Well, now the court is in the process of picking a new jury for Demmons' second trial, and we are at the point where a potential jury pool has been whittled down and attorneys are engaging in questioning of the jurors. And there is a lot of drama happening at the moment in this voir dire or jury selection process, including a major complaint from the prosecutors. To help me break this down, I'm joined right now by renowned lawyer Bradford Cohen, who's famously represented Kodak Black, Lil Wayne, even represented YNW Melly at one point in time. Bradford, good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so this is a bit of a complicated issue. Let me break it down for everybody, and then we're going to get into it. So the state makes this filing where they're taking issue with how a slate of jurors were excused. The defense apparently misstated the law in front of these jurors, telling the potential jurors that in order for them to find Demmons guilty of murder, they would also have to show that he was in a gang, because there's a gang enhancement charge in the indictment. The state said, whoa, they objected, saying that's not the law. The jury can find him guilty of murder without finding that he was in a gang. There was a back and forth with objections and sidebars, seemingly confusion from one of the jurors. And so the jury panel was excused. The attorneys, the judge, they discussed what to do. And it was agreed that the judge should read the jury instruction to the potential jurors. It's basically law. Well, the defense said, hold on. If you now read that instruction to the jury after what we, the defense, just told them, we're going to lose all credibility in their eyes. And the court ended up striking the entire panel. So now The state says they're concerned that every time they raise an objection during the jury selection process and their objection is sustained or upheld, the defense is going to move to strike the panel of jurors because they don't want to look bad. So the state wants to end this pattern. Bradford, that's the way I understand it. Have you ever seen an argument like this before?
I've never seen an argument like this before, because in these type of cases, these murder cases, and when there's a high stakes case, even if it's a felony punishable by life, you make every objection you can as a defense attorney. It doesn't matter what the ruling is, you want to raise it, because if you don't raise it, number one is you waive it, right? So on an appeal, if you lose, you won't have that, that kind of sword in your armory. And then the other thing is, you also want to raise it because you want to protect your client's interests as best that you can. So any single issue that you can come up with as a defense attorney, you want to raise it on objection. And if the judge, buys your argument and then strikes a jury panel or does something else, he's taking away that possible appellate issue. So in this case, do I think that the defense really wanted to strike the whole panel? I don't know if they really did, or if they did that as more of a strategic move where the judge might have denied it, and then that just raises another appellate issue if he didn't strike the panel. But I think in this case, the judge.
The cold part about this Melly thing, they still got the death penalty on the table. You would think since the last trial was deadlocked, they would at least came in with some different stipulations. They going in with the whole same thing, a whole new prosecution for this nigga. And they got the female to come in with testify. And they got them stupid ass text messages from the female mama in Portland. So it's like, damn. Two of the most talented in this in the millennium generation for sure. Two of the most talented in the from the early to the mid, because Thug came out like in 2009, 10, for real. Then Melly came a few years after that. You know what I mean? So I say for this generation, two of the most talented for sure. Two of the most talented going through real Thug. We all know the streets breed all the talent. That's where we come from. That's what we made from it. So it's like, damn. Melly and Thug shit is two totally different things, for sure. But just for them both to be put in a situation to where they might spend the rest of their life behind bars, behind some street shit after them niggas touch millions of dollars is crazy to me. But it's for sure that what they talking about here with the Melly thing, it's too many emotions being thrown out there. So in Melly's defense, they just trying to calm it all down. But that's not gonna look too good for the jury though, you feel me? Because they going in here, the prosecution is going in here throwing early jabs at the jury. And they, like look.
Just doing everything possible to really take away any kind of possible appellate issue, because he sees this case that might come back in the future in case there's a conviction.
Hey there, everybody. I want to talk to you right now about Palm, which is the next generation of pepper spray.
Always an objection, because you can't be fact specific. You have to use a lot of analogies and things like that to see where a jury's mind is. I've certainly seen where you move to strike a whole jury panel for something that happened during that voir dire. I haven't seen it where there was a misstatement of law, and that's the reason why it was you were moving to strike it. So certainly, it's not unusual to strike a whole jury panel for different reasons. I mean, there is a local attorney who's absolutely great, and he's a good friend of mine, who struck a whole jury panel because all of their last names started with the letter C. And they said it's impossible that this is just a random thing, that every single juror is she or he, their last name begins with C. It was a federal case, and the judge actually struck the whole panel. He thought it was unusual as well.
I'm not sure I understand that one. What's the problem? I mean, you don't even know their identities, the jurors.
I think that he was basically saying this wasn't a random selection of jurors.
Oh, I see.
And that there was something strange going on. He doesn't know what it is, but he'd rather have a jury panel that wasn't, everyone's last name started with C. And the judge, bought that argument. And actually, it's a pretty well-renowned case.
It turns out they're all family members. And then we found out after that, right?
No one knows.
Let me ask you about what the judge did here. Were you surprised that the judge just, got rid of the whole jury panel, basically sided with the defense? Why do you think he did that?
I think that the judge doesn't want this to come back in appeal. So he's going over and above of what you normally see, because he knows if this is a not guilty, the state can't appeal it, right?
Did you know that as you're watching this, you're eligible to receive a $1,400 a month health card that you can spend on?
There's no appeal from the state. It would only be if this is a guilty, it would be an appeal from the defense. So a lot of judges go over and above for a defendant to make sure that they eliminate all possible appellate issues.
What do you think about the state's argument that they're concerned every time they raise an objection and maybe they make the defense look bad in a way, that it's going to be grounds for a slate of jurors to be just excused? Do you think that their frustrations are, legitimate, justified?
I think it's an interesting motion, but again, you can't limit what the defense can object to, because if you're limiting, if you're saying to the judge, "Hey, judge, by the way, I don't want this happening every time," he has no control over it. The defense is going to raise objections on whatever they want to raise objections on. I think it's an interesting motion. I think it's more for the press than it is that the judge is actually going to say, "Hey, you guys are right. I'm not going to allow them to do this." That would never happen. I think it's more to show the press why it happened and kind of put some dirt on the defense and say like, "Oh, they didn't know the law."
There was another part of this that I thought was really interesting. And I guess you could understand why the state is frustrated, because they have also said in this filing that 3 jurors have complained about improper conduct. Like, for example, there was a juror number 3 who said that people were approaching the jurors or were talking in their presence. And this juror number 3, actually said that when she was outside the courthouse, someone came up to her to discuss her jury service on, quote, the Rappers case. And despite all of that, the state didn't move to strike the jury panel. And that seems pretty serious.
And that's because that stupid ass fans and people that Melly don't even know just doing weirdo shit. Or probably somebody at the prosecution. For me, I don't trust none of them for sure. Somebody that the prosecution probably got just walking up, doing stupid shit and trying to say it's on Melly's behalf. Like, come on now.
What's been happening with the jury, according to the state. And yet here, the jury panel was completely excused because of the defense was concerned that they might look bad. So if that is all true from what the state says, what do you make of it?
I think it's highly unusual in cases where it's a high profile case. And I've had a lot of high profile cases. Had a lot of high profile trials. When you have a high profile trial, people want to approach you, just normal people that are watching the case, that have interest in the case. I mean, the people that watch your show, that listen to your.
Yeah, it ain't looking too good for the Melly nigga either, man. Too much going on. Let me see.
Your show. I mean, these people have a lot of interest in what's going on, and not only that, they have a lot of interest in the evidence. Sometimes they know the evidence better than some of the lawyers. Sometimes they know the law better than some of the lawyers. I mean, it's really the era of people getting involved in these cases from when it was O.J. Simpson and everyone was kind of just watching on TV to where it is now, where everyone is kind of their own detective or their own lawyer and kind of figuring things out, I think has grown so much and so substantially that it doesn't surprise me that random people are going up to jurors and trying to get them to talk to them. But it is, like I said, it's improper. It's not allowed. A juror is not allowed to discuss their service. And I know there was some issues where one juror was saying, "Oh, Melly's mom is looking at me weird." Things like that. I think are very minimal because family members are going to be upset when their family member is on trial. So those things will happen, and people will be looking at you because you're a juror, and they want to see if you give any reaction, if you smile, if you don't smile. Those things everyone's going to be looking at. But if there's no physical contact, if there's no talking to each other, very difficult. Other than that, to say, okay, we need to strike the panel. I do find it, like I said, troubling that people are coming up to these jurors and wanting to talk to them. But that happens a lot in high-profile cases.
And look, like you said, the prosecution, this is a second round for them. They want a conviction. They don't want another mistrial, so they're trying to make sure everything is going accordingly. But look, it's tough. At the time of this recording, we're still in the jury selection process. We'll see when they actually select a jury, and then we'll see. Hopefully during the course of the trial that we don't lose jurors because of these kinds of issues. Having said that, you mentioned something, and I have a bonus issue for you. You mentioned detective. So I wanted to also ask you your thoughts on this other issue. The judge in this case ordered that the lead detective, Mark Moretti, is going to have to be interviewed by Melly's defense team again. Usually in Florida, you know that witnesses can only be deposed once unless the judge decides otherwise or the parties agree. So here, the defense is going to ask Moretti about his credibility, not any evidence about the actual case, but it concerns whether Moretti solicited a sheriff's deputy to lie, namely telling him that he should say he was there when a search warrant was executed on Melly's mom's phone. The defense suggested this could actually be.
Man, they shouldn't even interview that. They should just throw him out. What's the point of interviewing him for? They should just throw him out. They should just throw him out. Yeah, yeah. They should just throw that nigga out. But just from this pre-trial, man, it ain't looking too good for Thug. Just from the pre-trial, that's scary, man. Like, damn, bro. They got you down just because a nigga. That's crazy. That's crazy. They on their break right now. It's lunch or something. For sure, that's crazy, though. You say you rented a car. Damn, they got the lyrics of the nigga saying what he top, bruh. This nigga Thug crazy, bruh. This nigga Thug is crazy, bruh. Them niggas is crazy. Fuck all the bodies on bodies. That don't mean nothing. That nigga said, I shot at his mommy. Now he don't mention me. That nigga. Oh, good looking, man. Shit. Strength and wealth should take time. I shot at his mommy. Now he don't mention me. It's crazy, though. Even if you didn't have nothing to do with it, what the fuck? That shit crazy. crazy.
Naming rappers Young Thug and Gunna. We've just learned Gunna, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens, was booked sometime in the last few hours on a RICO charge. He could have
Okay, let me go ahead and like I said, when we recessed last night, courts had an opportunity to ponder the issues that were presented yesterday in terms of the admission of lyrics or the exclusion thereof. So to that extent, the court has considered the state's motion in limine to admit evidence of lyrics, the state's supplemental motion in limine to admit evidence of lyrics at trial, the state's amended particularized motion in limine to admit evidence of lyrics at trial, the opposition to the state's second supplemental, and motion in limine to admit evidence of lyrics at trial filed by, and on behalf of Mr. Kendrick, and argued by Mr. Weinstein, as well as Jeffrey Williams' motion in limine number 2, 1, and 2 to motion to strike, as well as Mr. Shart's oral motion, and the court will also consider it for any other lyrics that may be sought to be admissible in the trial of this matter. Specifically, I have considered the arguments of the state as well as the arguments of the defense. I'll kind of go through those in just a second. The state has argued that this particular gang lyrics or evidence is admissible for several reasons. One, to show actus reus or mens rea, or other offenses under 16-14-4, 16-15-4, or 24-8-801D2 alpha, 28-8-801D2 bravo, 24-8-801D2 echo, and 24-8-804 B3, specifically, as well as 16-15-3, 16-15-9, for those particular relevant purposes.
Gotta be in. Nigga, speak English, nigga. Fuck with all the numbers, nigga. I ain't sitting at the law book in front of me, nigga. What case is that from, nigga? Speak English, nigga.
Purposes. The court is well aware that there are several gatekeeping functions that the court must perform in determining logical relevance under 401, presumptive admissibility under 402, and legal relevance under 403. The defense has argued that use of these particular, the admission and use of lyrics, poetry, or artistry against Mr. Williams or any of the other named defendants as appropriate in this upcoming trial would be a constitutional violation, abuse of discretion, too prejudicial and unconstitutional based on the provisions of the U.S. Constitution as well as the Georgia Constitution, and that moreover, using these lyrics, poetry, artistry, speech against Mr. Williams and others would be racist and discriminatory because the jury would be poisoned, prejudiced by these lyrics, poetry.
Ms. Weaver, you ready for me? Retired Detective Dennis, how are you this
I'm
afternoon?
good. How are you?
All right. My name is Max Shard. I represent Shannon Stillwell. First, I just wanted to talk to you. You and Attorney Steele were discussing some hypotheticals. And I want to go back to that to make sure I understand. But before I do that, as a gang investigator with APD, when you were with APD, did you ever swear out warrants for individuals for gang act violation of the Georgia Criminal Street Gang Act?
Yes.
Okay. As part of your job with APD, and I guess your expertise or what they're putting forward as your expertise here today, is part of that to determine if a criminal act is gang related?
Yes.
Okay. Could you explain to me how you make that determination? We can use a hypothetical if you'd like, but just criminal act X, someone's arrested. How do you determine if it's a gang related crime?
The circumstances of the crime that took place, those that are involved, it's a number of things, factors that could come in. For us, a location in itself and who's the victim. That's the start. For myself, all I pretty much need is a police report. And with that police report, I'm going to read the narrative of what exactly happened. Usually we operated off a patrol officer or a general investigator's work. And so from that, I would then, who's the victim? What are they involved in? Things of that nature. Okay. It was, let's say, a random shooting. Okay. Most shootings aren't just random. Most shootings have a nexus of some sort for the reasoning of that shooting. And it's my job to try to dig into that or why that occurred.
Okay. All right. I believe that you testified on direct about the factors to consider for identifying if someone is associated with criminal street gang.
Yes.
All right. And there's like 6 factors, right?
Yes.
6. Okay. In determining if a crime is gang related or in furtherance of a gang, is there a list of factors in APD standard operating procedures or any sort of gang manuals that you know of that dictate what to look for? Is there a set standard?
I don't believe so.
Okay. When you listed some of the considerations that you look for, and feel free to correct me, I have circumstances of where the crime took place,
Mm-hmm.
circumstances of the crime that took place, the location of the crime, the people involved, and who the victim is.
Correct.
Those are all 4. Is that an exhaustive list, or are there other factors?
It can be a number of things. If, for example, your house gets shot up, when we go to your house, we're going to ask you, who you are, to try to get a feel for who you are or what you may be involved in.
Okay.
We may talk to the neighbors. What did you see? Well, you know, that's he associated with such and such, or things of that nature. Those are things that help kind of start the investigation. But as you investigate, the investigation can go a number of different directions.
Okay. How would you become involved in a case like this? Like, certainly you're not asked as a gang investigator to review the work of every responding officer to every
No.
case.
No.
So how do you get contacted to even begin working on a case?
It depends. The supervisor may contact you, the patrol officer may contact you, or you can watch the news from the night before and it may spark interest in what took place. And as you reach out, or we used to can pull the police reports, any police report, and when you read the narrative, it can give you an idea of what took place, where, and so forth.
Okay. Now, the factors that you listed, I understand that they're not in the SOPs and they're not in any gang manuals or investigation manuals that you know of. Did you get those factors from somewhere else, or are those the factors that you came up with based on your own experience?
That's based on my own experience. For myself, I've been contacted over it could be the simplest thing. For a patrol officer, they may just think it's just another shooting, right?
Mhm.
Not knowing the backstory or knowing the people that are involved. With my experience in gangs and dealing with different people from all around the city, it would often lead you to what was the reasoning for it or why that happened. Or you might get a call from somebody in the neighborhood or a Crime Stopper tip, and it may take it in that direction.
How did you get involved in the January 10th, 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas?
I said it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. On January 10th, that night, I was off. Another detective was working, and when Donovan Thomas was shot and killed on McDaniel Street, he reached out to me saying, "Hey, you put him in APIN. That's our gang files."
Yep.
And he said, "What do you know about Donovan Thomas?" And I told him to go to my bottom drawer and get my black book.
We all know that's nut.
And in that book, it had a profile of Donovan Thomas. And that Saturday, everybody was talking about it. The city was going crazy. They created a fake page called Death to Snake N-Words.
Mhm.
And on that page, they spoke about who was suspected in involvement with the death of Donovan Thomas. Leading up to Monday, when we got to work, my supervisor,
Nigga died and they went straight to the internet, made a page for nut. Telling though. Not no gangster shit. They was telling.
basically pulled me to the side and said, all of us to the side, said, "What do you know about Donovan Thomas?" And I basically told him, "What do you want to know?" And he said, "Well, we have a meeting with every federal agency in the city at 2:00. You need to create a war room." And that's when the Operation Planners was born.
Now, at that time, were you a gang investigator yet, or were you with?
I was a gang investigator, yes.
Did you have an open investigation into YSL prior to that date?
Me? No.
Did the gang
No.
unit, to your knowledge?
No. We had people that have dealt with rock crew or maybe YSL individuals, but no, there was no long, big investigation into them at that time.
Okay. Now, going back to the discussion you had with Attorney Steele, you indicated, and we can take any hypothetical group, we'll just go with the Boy Scouts. You indicated that in your understanding as an expert, individuals that are part of a group that commit a crime, we'll stick with the rape example, that would not implicate everyone else in the group, correct?
Correct.
Because those members of the group are members of the Boy Scouts, and the Boy Scouts are not a criminal street gang.
That's correct.
Okay. How do the Boy Scouts become a criminal street gang?
Through criminal activity in furtherance of the Boy Scouts as a criminal street gang. If the Boy Scouts start coming up investigations for carjacking, shootings, robbery, selling drugs, then the Boy Scouts can be documented as a criminal street gang. But if there is no evidence of that, those individuals pretty much are standalones that happen to be Boy Scouts.
Who makes the call that the Boy Scouts are now a criminal street gang?
The investigation, pretty much. The information that's gathered would make that call, or whomever is leading that investigation with the information that they have. Anything that we gather or anything that we produce, we have to go before a judge to swear out warrants, search warrants, affidavits, and so forth. So any information that we present, we have to be able to back it up with probable cause facts to be able to stand by the information that we're providing.
So to become a criminal street gang, is it just the commission of, was it 2 or more prior acts on or after a date in 2015, or is there more to it than that?
It's much more than that.
Okay, could you tell me some of the other factors?
If you're coming across people that have life-like characteristics that are participating in a crime, say, for example, we carjack somebody.
Mhm.
Say, for example, we shoot somebody. Say, for example, we sell drugs together. We will then determine what is the like characteristics. And so, for example, the 6 identifying factors to identify them, what do they have in common? Oh, they're calling themselves the Boy Scouts. Okay.
Hit that
What
like
do the
button,
Boy
man.
Scouts,
Share
what are
this.
their monikers? What do they wear? How do they operate?
Share this. Hit the like button, man. Come smoke and watch the YSL trial with a little pre-trial with us, man.
Do you have traditional gangs? Traditional gangs usually have more structure. They have a hierarchy. Hybrid gangs are pretty much more dangerous because they have no rules or allegiance to anything. And so they pretty much take upon whatever they want to. Fam America, for example, here in Atlanta, they wore American flags. They were red, white, and blue. So they pretty much didn't stick to the same structure that Bloods and Crips did. And so that makes them
I'm
a
from
little
California.
more
What the
harder
fuck is
to
a
identify,
hybrid gang?
because just because somebody's wearing an American flag, you're like, okay,
American
is that
flag
illegal?
gang?
No.
That's
But
crazy.
then when you see that become the color and the monikers for this gang, then things start to make sense in that specific area. So all those different factors, it's not just a standalone thing. I think that some people think as a gang detective, we just gang.
Nigga, that's what you just said.
And that's a kind of insult to what we do, because a lot of work truly goes into what
You're
we do.
insulting what you did.
Listening to people, reading social media, jail calls, interviews, all these different things are, I think Mr. Steele asked something earlier. I don't even know how many man hours went into this investigation and how many interviews I've sat through with different individuals about this case to help garner the opinions and different warrants and different things that we had to do throughout this investigation.
Okay, so you talked about one of the sources of your information in these gang investigations is interviews of different people.
Yeah.
And in this case, in the discovery, there's taped interviews of certain alleged members and other witnesses. You
Yes.
agree? Okay.
Yes,
What I want to know, and you know who KC is, correct?
I do.
Okay. Are there any interviews that took place with KC, you said that sometimes when you meet people in the community, it's not under a typical Miranda situation. It's not recorded. Were there any other interviews with KC that you took part in as part of this investigation that were not
When you come in, man, drop a comment, hit that like button, man.
in the typical Miranda
No.
situation?
Basically, what you're asking
Your
is
Honor,
awful.
I'm going to object to this relevance to this hearing.
Source of his information to lay a foundation for his opinions as an expert.
I think he's already covered this already, so it may be asked and answered already. So why don't you move on? I said it's already been. I said it may be asked and answered. So it may have. So I'm gonna.
I haven't heard an answer to that question, respectfully, Your Honor.
I'm gonna sustain it as being asked and answered. Why don't you move on to something else?
Okay. You, as an expert, you said you consult on civil cases,
Yes.
and does that also involve testimony?
I've done depositions, never had to go testify on a civil case.
Okay, and I've never been a civil attorney, so help me understand. Do you typically, what is your role in a civil case as an expert?
Whatever incident, for example, individual gets shot at the BP station.
Yes, sir.
They may sue the BP station for inadequate security, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the plaintiff or the defense, they may hire me to explain either A, the location, is it a gang drug location, or B, is the victim or person involved a gang member and their lifestyle led to them being shot. And so I come in to explain that.
I see. So, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to insinuate that you're a hired gun. I'm just, that's not what I'm trying to
That's
insinuate.
what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm asking is, if you are hired by the defense, typically the purpose is to say that it wasn't the location, it was possibly the.
If I'm hired by the defense, I had a case where they didn't know who their client was.
Yeah.
And when they hired me, he had scrubbed his social media, all these different things, so that they can believe that he was not a gang member. Through my investigation, I found countless videos and gang paraphernalia that, as an expert, I would have to disclose that information.
You're talking about the complainant.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the defendant.
Oh, okay. In a civil case? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I basically had to explain to them that if I'm called in this case, I would have to share the information in which I have.
Shout out to PA, man.
And you were hired in your document that you shared that I think is
That
states
Pennsylvania,
Exhibit 2, Little Wayne civil case. Is the party that hired you, is that Jeffrey
Gerwitz? Yes.
And he's the plaintiff, and he's
not the plaintiff. He represents the plaintiff, which is the bus driver.
Okay, the bus driver of the tour bus.
Correct.
Okay, have you testified in depositions in that case?
Nope. The case is pretty much in limbo until further notice.
It's crazy because this nigga said he got all this information. Just from asking niggas on the streets questions. Because he look like a regular nigga. Look like he do a little powder.
When you are hired on civil cases, is it on a hourly fee?
Look like he
Or
plays
how
his
does
nose. Look like he plays his nose. Nigga look like nigga hold
Just a
the
set
tape.
fee for the entire case?
It depends on the amount of work I have to do. The starting retainer, it's just like you guys. Depending on how it starts, if I have to do extra work.
Nigga said he got this information, asking niggas on the street. What happened to Donovan Thomas? But he really mean Nut though. What happened to Nut? Nigga just start talking, telling them what happened to Nut. This nigga looked like he played with his nose. You know what I mean? But, you know, whole detective.
Regarding my client in particular, I know that Mr. Stillwell,
Mhm.
I know that you indicated on, I think it was Cross, that you had spoken to him in a custodial setting before regarding the murder of Tierra Jones.
Yes, he was a victim in that case.
Right. But he was in jail on.
He wasn't in jail. He was in the hospital.
Okay.
When Tierra Jones was shot and killed, they were attempting to shoot your client. And when the vehicle flipped over, I think he had a fractured rib. And we interviewed him as well as his baby mother, Shakoya Duncan, at the hospital. And then
His client, the dude with the dreads, with the tattoo on his face. With the tattoo on his face, man. Some Shannon. Let me see. Yeah, Shannon Jackson was Shannon Stillwell, what they call him, Shannon Jackson, nigga with the tattoo on his face. This nigga right here. He always be fresh in the court. Be fresh. I got a little suit on, a little polo on or something.
subsequently, Detective Griffin with our homicide unit, who was the lead on the Tierra Jones murder case, interviewed him, and we assisted in that interview.
So you're referring to the interview that was
He was
captured on
cover.
audio.
Correct.
Sure.
Okay.
Look
Other
at his
than
nose.
that
He looked like he
interview at the
like
hospital captured on audio tape, did you
little,
have any conversations in the community with
like
Mr.
just be off
Stillwell?
that
I
powder.
think myself, and Marissa Viverito talked to him at his grandma's house once. Other than that,
Whole time he a detective.
Do you know when that occurred?
18, 19 maybe. And I spoke to him on the night of the Lil Wayne bus shooting at Club Compound.
Hey, he was in too deep.
In the vehicle was Lil Tick, Demikion Garlington, and your client.
Okay. Was that interaction captured on body cam to your?
I don't think we even had body cameras then.
Okay. Was that recorded in any way?
Nope. It wasn't even really all it was I was pulling traffic.
Yep.
And being aware. The thing about this case is people think when you work a club that you don't have a regular assignment. And we were 4.5 months into this investigation, and all the YSL members start showing up at the club that night, including the individuals in that vehicle. And anytime I deal with people that I deal with,
The real life Omar Epps right here. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's the real life Omar in too deep.
at work, I call them by their government name. I don't call them by their nickname in an effort to let you know I know you. I want you to go away. I want you to go be free. But I want you to understand that I know you, and if you do something, I'm able to identify you. And so when they pulled up, Mr. Garlington, how are you? How you doing, Mr. Stillwell? And they looked, and Mr. Tick basically said, how the hell 12 know y'all? And then they went and parked.
Were you involved as an expert or as an investigator in the Cobb County investigation?
I sure was. I was at the club that night when everything transpired. And when it transpired, I've known Mr. Winfrey since he was probably 10 years old. I think my first extra job was a TI video shoot, and Mr. Winfrey used to walk on his tippy toes, bouncing around. And the night of the Lil Wayne bus shooting, he actually came and gave me a hug. And because, how you doing? You good to see you? You all right? Yeah. And then as the night transpired, while pulling traffic, and once things started to break out, I also saw Walter Murphy, who I didn't know at the time, take a gun out of his waistband and put it on the tires of Mr. Williams' sister, Green Explorer. And when he put the gun on the tire, I took another individual and pushed him into Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Murphy took off running. Mr. Williams' sister basically said, why the hell is the police pointing the gun at me? And I showed her the gun that was in my possession. And then everyone started scattering. I then saw Quindarius Zachary or sick D. And I said, Mr. Zachary, you might want to go home. And he said, you don't know me. I said, the last 4 of your social is this, your date of birth is this, your mother is this. Do you want me to keep going? He said, I'm gone. Then as we started pulling traffic, another officer told me to stop traffic. So the white Camaro stopped the white Camaro. I wasn't jumping in front of a car. He hit the gas. As the car took off, we started.
Nigga pull you, nigga, the police tell you your last 4 of your social, nigga. So, nigga, I'm leaving Atlanta. Them niggas too gangster for their own blood. Nigga, I'm gone. Nigga, what? The whole Georgia kiss my ass.
Started getting reports from the security inside the club that stayed behind that the bus is being shot on 285. We were concerned with the 2 officers that escorted the bus on motorcycles. As we began to call them, they pulled back up at the location.
At the time that you got out of the way, I guess, or
got out the way from my own.
This nigga lawyer sucks. Stillwell, your lawyer sucks. What they call you? Some sharp, your lawyer sucks. Shannon, your lawyer sucks, bro.
On safety, yes.
got out the way of the white Camaro, you were able to see who was in the white Camaro.
It was Jimmy Winfrey.
Okay. Just Jimmy Winfrey?
That I saw. And another officer indicated that he had a stick on the seat. A stick is slang for an assault rifle.
All right. Who was that officer?
Officer Finney.
All right. And I understand that you were a fact witness in that case. I guess my question is, were you also involved in the Cobb County charging decisions in that case?
I was not. Cobb County, we knew that Cobb County didn't know what was going on. Once again, it goes back to if we didn't get involved in this case, Cobb County thinks it's just a bus being shot up, not knowing that the players involved are involved in this other investigation that's going on. What happened is, after we got off, the next morning, I watched TMZ like everybody else, and they said a white Corvette pulled up on the side of the bus and shot up the bus. And I said, wait a minute, a Corvette and a Camaro looks very similar. What Mr. Winfrey didn't know is I have an undercover page. I basically follow him on my page. I went and looked on his page, and he just got a brand new Z28 Camaro. I screenshotted it. I reached out to the Zone 2 commander and said, who's working the bus shooting? Because I thought it was on us. He said, well, it's on Cobb County. Put me in touch with the detective, Detective Racy. And that's how the relationship was formed.
Okay, but so once that relationship was formed, did you work alongside Detective Racy?
Oh, most definitely.
It's Racine, right?
Racy.
It's Racy, okay. I know how it's spelled, I just don't know how it's
Racine is in Wisconsin.
All right, so once you were involved with Detective Racy, were you involved in the charging decisions at that point?
No, we didn't. There are different jurisdictions. We can't dictate to them what to charge. All we did is assisted in identifying. I only knew Mr. Winfrey as Pee Wee or Roscoe. I didn't know his government name. And so when we got to work, my partner basically dug until she found his government name. And once she found his government name, we then found out that he was on probation, reached out to his probation officer. And she said, I'll call him in right now. And we met at the probation office when Mr. Winfrey showed up. And when Mr. Winfrey showed up and he looked and saw us we were in a rental car, a Chrysler 300. He looked and he said, oh, can I curse?
Yes.
He said, oh, fuck. Because he saw me and he knew that I was there and he knew that I knew what happened. And he immediately went in his pocket and took out $200 and slapped fives with me. And I looked at my hand and I said, what's this? I don't get down like that. And he said, man, I know I was tripping the other night. And at that point, I knew that he was going to jail because he just pretty much told on himself. And if you ever find my file, it's a file with $200 in an envelope in the back of it.
I don't believe I have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harvey, anything, sir? No, sir. Mr. Matthews, any other cues? All right, Ms. Hingerty, go right ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Katie Hingerty. I'm here representing Mr. Kendrick today.
Okay.
Briefly, you had mentioned earlier that you thought it was in your opinion that music had contributed to the Donovan Thomas and YSL being rivals.
Yes.
Can you give me a time frame on that? What month and year approximately did that rivalry occur?
Summer of 2014 leading up to 2015.
And also, you've referenced your partner a number of times, and I got that it was a woman. Can you say for the record who your partner was?
Lakia Gaither.
And she's also involved in this investigation.
She was. Lakea.
Those were my only
Gaither,
questions.
Gaither.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay.
And when you come in, man, hit the like button. Drop a comment.
All right, councils, may we temporarily or permanently excuse Detective Dennis for purposes of the motion?
I think permanently, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Detective Dennis, I'm going to permanently excuse you for purpose of the motion. Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody except the attorneys in this case, and we'll contact you when we need you, okay?
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good looking out, my boy. Yeah, that nigga know way too much, man. To be a detective, man, he knew way too much, man. They do their job, man. They do find out a lot of information, man, just because niggas just ain't gangsters, so niggas just, the streets be the streets. Niggas that ain't gangster be in the streets. They be hearing shit too. And when I be looking up, I see that a lot of people had a lot of love for Nut. Like, a lot of people got a lot of love. Let's see what you got to say.
Okay, all right, Mr. Steele.
Chief Judge Glanville, I'd like you not to qualify retired Detective Dennis as an expert in this case for
This thug lawyer, thug lawyer ain't finna play. This where the money. This the money right here.
him his basis of information. He said it all comes through his work.
When you come in, hit that like button, man. Drop a comment, man. Let me know where y'all tapping in from, man.
Of knowledge, that's not what he said. He called it Black Book, I think. Beat Book. Thank you. And then speaking with people that were under arrest, alleged victims of crime, co-workers, and the like, people in the community and the like. And all of that, Your Honor, would be testimonial statements that he is using to form his opinion. And we don't have who are these people. That's what I know I've asked for. So I could understand who these people are to determine the believability and have a cross-examination that's meaningful. So under Williams, WILLIAMS versus Illinois,
That's crazy.
it's 567 US 50, 2012, as well as Bull Cumming, BULLCOM, ING versus New Mexico. It's 564 US 647, that's 2011. It's not constitutional to permit an expert witness to discuss others' testimonial statements if the testimonial statements were not themselves admitted into evidence, properly admitted to evidence. So if this honorable court does recognize retired Detective Dennis, and without the foundation, I don't know who these people are. I do know some of them. He said KC. He mentioned him. He mentioned Mr. Stillwell. He mentioned Mr. Kendrick. He mentioned Mr. DG. He used the name, but the court may remember. If you need the name, I can tell you. But we need those people to testify so that the testimonial statements are in evidence, and then possibly he can talk about it. But otherwise, I can't judge reliability, and I can't cross-examine effectively. And if he testifies like this, it goes basically unchallenged. So the state has multiple opening statements and closing arguments, as you just heard. I mean, he puts the whole case together and wraps it up in a package of it started in 2014, and it was a rivalry, and then it led to the death of Mr. Thomas, and then there was retaliation.
So he gives the history.
Yeah, but the history is based on testimonial statements.
Not necessarily.
That's what he said.
But okay.
Yeah, that is my, those are my reasons. Those are my two reasons. The third reason is going to be what I asked yesterday. Your Honor, at some point, this has to be, I don't know if it has to be, but if this honorable court would please look at this under 403 as well, there has to be some sort of prosecutorial need. How many experts, quote unquote, do they need on the same topic? Everyone is being qualified in the same investigation. Practices and culture, criminal street gang, recognition, and then he went into YSL and IF gangs. And this is now Investigator Viverito, this honorable court qualified, Detective Belknap, and now this is Detective Dennis. And I think at some point the scale has got to be overweighted. Those are my reasons. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Short.
Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. Stillwell, I echo the sentiments of Mr. Steele on the confrontation clause issues as well as the 403 issues. Additionally, Your Honor, I would add for the record, and I'm aware of Your Honor's ruling on the prior expert, and I heard what Your Honor said about the prior expert, but for the purposes of the record, at least if nothing else, I would also argue that we just haven't been given any clear methodology for any of this. It's for the other expert, it was totality of the circumstances. For this, from investigator or retired investigator Dennis, it was kind of, I look at police reports and then just my experience leads me to the answer. There was no set standards for determining if things are gang related. It was just kind of like, I know it when I see it.
I think he testified about that. I think he's
That nigga
testifying
voice
about
shaking
not
and shit,
only
nigga
experience
nervous.
over the course of
He not
these
feeling
15
too
years,
confident
as
after
well
he
as
had
the
detective talk.
six factors and other things that
It don't look like he too confident. It don't sound like he too confident
Well,
after he heard
Well,
that
the 6
detective.
factors go to identification if an individual is a member of a gang. But, Your Honor, one of the big issues in this case, and I believe that the state is going to put Investigator Dennis forward to speak to the jurors about this, is whether individual overt acts are in fact gang related or in furtherance of the gang. And in that particular aspect, Your Honor, specifically, just so I'm clear, there were no 6 factors. It was, and I asked if there was any listed tests in any of the gang manuals or any of the APD SOPs or anything of that nature. And he said, no, it's just, I just look at certain things and my experience, I just get to the bottom of it. And then you combine that methodology with the sources, which are unknown to any of us, are apparently in some beat book that is who knows where at this point. And it just becomes very problematic and impossible to cross-examine. So, Your Honor, I would ask that you would consider all, as a gatekeeper, consider all those arguments as well as what Attorney Steele originally argued as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Ms. Hangerty, anything, madam? Okay, Mr.
Now to say they ain't no gang, or that what they did ain't in benefit of the gang is kind of
But if you have anything
shaky when you got
distinguishing, or not
12
from my
other people,
perspective, that
13 other people now that
that'd be
took a
wonderful.
deal,
Okay, all right, anybody else?
and then they deal was the same deal
Madam?
that Gunner took. It just wasn't recorded, except for the last little dude who took a deal. And
Your
he
Honor, as
didn't.
it
And
relates
the
to
last little dude that took a deal, he
retired
didn't have all that
investigator
stipulation.
speaking to Mr. Steele and Mr.
He didn't have to
Sharp
admit everything
and
Gunner admitted.
concerns regarding the confrontation clause, to say that the basis for his opinion lies solely in interviews that he has conducted with people ignores a great deal of Investigator Dennis's testimony, his training, his investigations, the education that he has received, the classes that he has taken, and to somehow suggest that one, there is no way to gauge his sources because they don't have the people that he has interviewed is, again, just ignoring a large part of his testimony. I did not ask Detective Dennis to talk about what any particular person said because I do not intend, unless it is being offered as a factual portion of this case, to proffer that through Detective Dennis. And it would have to be properly admitted. It would have to have a foundation laid. We'd have to have the person here, the witness here, or it would have to be a statement that one of the defendants made and it would be offered against that defendant. So we're not trying to do that. There were particular questions asked about specific facts that the reason I objected to is that that is not part of what we are tendering Detective Dennis as an expert to talk about per se. If there are factual matters, and in fact, Detective Dennis was an integral part of many of the events involved that are listed on this indictment, there is a very, very clear demarcation point with respect to Detective Dennis between factual testimony and expert testimony. We are seeking to have him admitted, not to talk about something someone else talks about. And again, our contention is that the proper time and place for that type of objection, and as far as cumulative is concerned, would be if I try to elicit information that someone else has already given. We are asking that the court finds that based on Detective Dennis's background, training, experience, and education, that he be qualified as an expert in this case. And as to information, if the state seeks to elicit information from Detective Dennis that has already been discussed, that an expert has already talked about, and the court deems it cumulative, I believe, or if a party deems it cumulative, I believe that that is the proper place for that objection to be made. But that argument does not preclude Detective Dennis being qualified by this honorable court. And we would ask that the court find him one.
All right. Can I see, states 2 and 2B, please?
Yeah, man. It's in their best bet, man, to have every lawyer that they got stand up and try to file something to get him my motion to get it. That detective up out of here. He know way too much. This is all street knowledge. Yeah, so street knowledge could be hearsay too, though, man. You feel me? It could be a bunch of hearsay. So they need to push that they need to push that heavy because this detective right here, man, he sound like he know way too much. They do not need him coming in talking to a jury for sure. We know the jury not in here right now, but we do not need him in here talking to no jury for sure. That nigga slimy. He knew way too much. And I still feel like everybody taking them deals hurt the case too. They gonna bring that like everybody that he can name, they took deals. You know what I mean, so it's like y'all admitted it was a gang. Y'all admitted them niggas. Y'all admitted that y'all witnessed them commit crimes. Y'all admitted that they committed crimes in behalf of the gang. So they made them put that in their plea deals. And they gave them niggas 10, 15 years probation, shit like that. Like, yeah. It was like, we got you, but you know, you admit to this. You know what I mean? We'll let you out just because we know we can use that when we need it. If they call any one of them as a witness, Gunna, any one of them as a witness, and they disappear, whatever, they put a warrant out for their arrest, they violate their stipulations, but they still, that's when they can use their plea deals and what they admitted to against them because they're calling them as witnesses. And we don't have the witness list. It's hundreds of witnesses. But in the plea deal that we've seen, gonna take on, if they ask him to come testify, he agreed to it. So we know that should be all bad. I mean, you can't win for. And the last little nigga did the same thing. Let's see what he said.
The testimony of Detective Ty Dennis, as well as States 2, which is his CV, and States 2B, which is a continuation of his CV, which specifically breaks out his gang training
How many?
and the cases that he's been involved in, to include civil matters that
Shit, I don't think
he's been
none
involved
of them.
in as well.
I don't
As
think none of
well
the ones
as
that they gave plea deals to. I don't think they don't know nothing. You know what I'm saying?
States 3.
I don't think they don't know nothing.
Which was
Everybody
reviewed
else,
yesterday, the court will take notice of that.
so they willing to take that chance on looking for them niggas. Yeah, they fried. Either way, they fucked up. Mm-hmm.
And the case law and arguments of counsel, I'm specifically rule as follows. On November the 14th of 2023, this court held a hearing pursuant to OCGA 24-7-702, determine the admissibility of testimony from the state's proffered expert, and that would be former detective Ty Dennis, retired detective Ty Dennis. The state's request that the court declare Detective Dennis as an expert in the following areas. The field of criminal street gang recognition, culture, practices, investigation, identification, as well as specifically the Englewood Family Criminal Street Gang and Young Slime Life Criminal Street Gang. The examination of Detective Dennis and from his CV shows that he has been qualified as an expert witness at least 10 times in the area of criminal street gangs. Having heard evidence, testimony, and argument from all parties, which this court will apply to all the named defendants, specifically in this case, I'm going to find that this evidence is admissible pursuant to OCGA 24-7-702B. We have had our evidence code our new evidence code since July 1st of 2020, and it applies the tenants as set forth in Daubert versus Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals at 509 U.S. 579-1993 to criminal cases. And as I mentioned earlier, and I'll mention yesterday, I mentioned today that expert witnesses formerly were governed under the provisions of 24-7-701, but as of July 1st of 2022, the rules of OCGA 24-7-702 mirror the requirements of Daubert, and they now apply. OCGA 24-7-702 provides a witness who's qualified as an expert by knowledge, skill, experience, or education may testify in the form of an opinion or otherwise, and in this particular case, Detective Dennis is being offered due to his background, training, education, and experience. If the expert's scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge will help the trier of fact to understand the evidence and determine the fact and issue, the testimony is based upon sufficient facts or data. The testimony is the product of reliable principles and methods, and the expert has reliably applied the principles and methods to the facts of the case. And OCGA 24-7-702E provides guidance as to trial courts on how to apply this code section, and it indicates that it's the intent of the legislature that in all proceedings, the courts of this state in Georgia are not to be viewed as open to expert evidence that would not be admissible in other states. So, in interpreting and applying this code section, the courts of the state may draw from the opinions of the United States Supreme Court in Daubert, General Electric, and Kumho Tire citations which have been previously provided, and other cases in federal courts applying the standards announced by the United States Supreme Court in those aforementioned cases. In the 11th Circuit in United States versus Fraser, 387 F. 3rd, 1244, 11th Circuit, 2004, explains that a witness qualified as an expert may testify in the form of an opinion as permitted in OCGA 24-7-702 if that testimony is based on sufficient facts or data. The testimony is the product of reliable principles and methods, and the witnesses apply the principles and methods reliably to the facts of the case, and that is Fraser at 1259. This court must perform a gatekeeping function concerning the admission of expert scientific and technical evidence. To determine whether expert testimony is admissible, this court must consider three factors. One, the expert is qualified to testify competently regarding the matters he intends to address. Two, the methodology by which the expert reaches his conclusions is sufficiently reliable as determined by the sort of inquiry mandated in Daubert. And three, the testimony assists the trier of fact through the application of scientific, technical, or other specialized expertise to understand the evidence or determine the fact and issue. That's citing City of Tuscaloosa versus Harcross Chemical, Inc. at 158 F. 3rd, 548, pinpoint 56, 11th Circuit, 1998, and Daubert 509 U.S. at 589. The proponent of the expert testimony must always bear the burden to show that his expert is qualified to testify competently regarding the matters he intends to address. The methodology by which the expert reaches his conclusions is sufficiently reliable, and the testimony assists the trier of fact. Citing McCorvey versus Baxter Healthcare, 298 F. 3rd, 1252, pinpoint 1257th, 11th Circuit, 2002. Court finds that the state has met its burden as to Detective Dennis's testimony. The state is presented from Detective Dennis at this hearing and has entered his CV, marked as states 2 and 2B into evidence. The testimony and his CV shows his extensive experience in gang investigations. His educational background is that, as he testified to, he has an associate's degree in criminal justice from Land Lake College in Illinois from August 1997 to May of 1999. And he furthermore has a degree in sociology and criminal justice from the University of North Alabama at Florence, Alabama, where he matriculated from August of 1999 to May of 2002. His CV is replete with his employment history from the position he holds right now with the Rockwood School District as a director of school safety from August of 20 to the present. He was previously, up until that point in time, August of 20, going backwards from May 13th to August of 20, he served with the Atlanta Police Department, Criminal Intelligence Unit, Gang Special Enforcement Section.
Man,
He's been a member of the AT.
I'm gonna stop that. Matter of fact, hold on.
Yes, Safe Streets Task Force from January. Prosecution of gang-related crimes such as murder, shootings, carjackings, and
I want to see
robberies.
is they gonna are they gonna allow him to testify? That's big.
He has testified this, over the past several hours of his many experiences with gang members, graffiti, and he has done gang consulting work in premises liability cases. He has testified significantly on the background and of the
Son, with that, get
gang,
him out of here.
composition of the IF gang, their interface with the YSL gang. He has done cell phone extractions, looked at social media, monitored jail calls, interviewed defendants, people in the community.
Yeah, there, like
Gang and
swimwear. That
non-gang
nigga
gang members, and sources of
lead
information.
witness.
He's done at least 50 cell extractions, listened to many
They
jail
just
calls.
found the lead
He's
witness.
familiar with people talking in slang or in code. He told us about terms mac and cheese or get the biscuit. I'm gonna wet you up. Hand signals. He specifically testified about the culture and practices of the IF and YSL gangs, and he gave his opinion in respect to those, the YSL and IF gangs. Detective Dennis also testified his knowledge of gang terms, investigatory principles, and the Atlanta Police Department's six-point investigative strategy for identification of gang members. He's testified to the content of the trainings he's attended and explained how those courses and his experiences have assisted him in learning about gang investigations and gang members. He's Detective Dennis has explained how the interrelationship between the IF and the composition of the IF gang and YSL with each other and one another. And he's testified how each of how these gangs have developed. He's explained indicators in social media posts, communication patterns, and criminal gang activities can show association.
He basically done broke down YSL enough for the judge to feel like,
in gangs.
yeah.
For the above mentioned reasons, for described testimony, this court finds that his
Thanks for
testimony
using.
meets the requirements of Daubert and OCGA 24-7-702. The court will reiterate, like I did yesterday, that these particular, this testimony, such as Detective Dennis's, much like Detective Belknap's, yesterday has been accepted in numerous federal courts, including the 11th Circuit, under which I provide citations have been provided yesterday. But Augustine, Wilson, Ledbetter, Hankey, Locasco, Archuleta, Smith, and Kamati, Kamale. Experts like Detective Dennis may be qualified based on their extensive experience. As cited in U.S. versus Lobo Lopez at 468 F APPX 186, pinpoint 189 11th Circuit. Rule 702 does not require that a court rely solely on the individual's education to qualify him as an expert. Rather, as a test expressly contemplates an expert may be qualified on the basis of his experience. As described by the court, Detective Dennis has significant experience with gangs and gang investigations, including the IF gang and its the composition of that gang in YSL. And furthermore, the reliability of Detective Dennis's methodology is also established by his testimony. Detective Dennis is described by the court, is testified extensively about gang history, his experience with the gang's identifiers and communication practices of gang members, to include YSL, common activities of gangs, leadership with gangs, and how gangs interact with one another, among many topics. This court finds that Detective Dennis has reached his opinions by relying upon his experience and training, as cited in Wilson 634 FAPPX at 737. See also Ledbetter 929 F third at 348. Further, Detective Dennis's years of experience applying his methodology sufficiently supports the reliability of his application to the facts. In this case, and as mentioned, Daubert factors simply are not applicable to this kind of testimony from a gang expert, whose reliability depends heavily on the knowledge and experience of the expert rather than the methodology or theory behind it, citing Hankey 203 F third at 1168, Camuno Tire 526 US at 150. The court finds that Detective Dennis's testimony will assist the jury, as cited in Wilson and Lobo Lopez, that Detective Dennis, his testimony can shed light, in particular, on the communication patterns of gang members and associates, and would be helpful to explain social media evidence and other, in particular, the state plans to present in this case. And because these defendants are charged with participation in criminal street gang activity, this evidence will assist the jury in evaluating the alleged gang activity underpinning as in pursuant to the indictment and this charge in the indictment. In conclusion, this court finds that Detective Dennis is qualified in the areas of criminal street gang recognition, culture, practices, investigation, identification, and practices, and specifically, as well as the Inglewood Family Criminal Street Gang and Young Slime Life Criminal Street Gang. And his testimony is relevant and reliable. This court finds that Detective Dennis's testimony is relevant and will help the trier of fact to understand the evidence and determine facts and issue. This court finds that this testimony is based on sufficient facts and data, specifically Detective Dennis's years of experience and training as an investigator in this area, including those particular items that he testified to, as well as on his
he in there.
in states 2 and 2B. And his many interviews.
Yeah, he in there, man. They ain't looking, man. Free Thug, free Melly. It ain't looking too good though, man. Thug had a chance to get his case severed. Well, I guess he didn't have a chance. They threw in a motion to get his case severed so he could fight his own trial, like most of his co-defendants did. But I guess he was just too tied in. They ain't the feds, but what they sounding like is they kind of got it. It's fucked up to say, but hey, free Thug, man. Free all them niggas, man. It's crazy. I'm gonna get up out of here though, man. Thank you for fucking with me, man. Tap in, man. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. Hey, man, hit that notification bell, man. Subscribe. You ain't subscribed, man. Hit that notification bell, man. Stay tapped in, man. We will be back for a recap. Solid game.